We're going to have an exciting overview of an unbelievable tool today called UV. So I've recently switched over from using the more traditional pip tools to install and create my virtual environments and manage my requirements. It took me a little while to figure out UV. I switched back because I couldn't really figure it out, or it took me a little while to get maybe comfortable with it. Now I am a big believer. I'm so excited about it. So let's look at this. This video is going to touch on a lot of advanced things with UV, but take the time, learn these tricks, and you are going to be so happy that you did. UV brings together the powers of a lot of other tools. It's written in Rust, so you'll see it's incredibly fast with installing packages, but it also has an amazing dependency management system. What I mean with that, so it creates your log files for you. We'll talk about those, but it also manages cache. It's more, I'm actually talking about cache. The cache system of UV is amazing. At some points, I was wondering why is UV this fast? Like I would install stuff and it's just instantly all installed. And the reason for that was the cache. So you can clear the cache, but man, is this tool amazing. So let's look at it. So firstly, I'm gonna just create an environment using the more traditional approach. Requirement files, we just know what we're talking about here. So I'm creating a new folder, hello UV, and I'm copying in a requirements file. So it contains some requirements, as you can see at the top over there: fast API request, UVcorn, pandas, numpy. And firstly, I'm showing you here that currently I'm using an old version of Python 3.9. This is the default one that's installed on my machine, the Mac default. So I created in virtual environment, and as you can see, the old approach, it uses the same Python as I have by default on my machine, 3.9.6. So let's do the same thing using UV. First thing I'm going to do, before I do that, let me install all the requirements using the requirements file. Pip install -r requirements. It reads the file. Notice how fast this is. This is actually slow compared to UV. So notice the speed of this. You're going to be blown away once you see how fast UV does this. So now we're going to basically recreate this whole thing using the PyProject TOML file. TOML is short for Tom's language. This is the standard approach for managing your Python projects. It's got the Python version in there. Notice that. 3.14 requires Python. And it's got 3 packages in there: fastpy, numpy, pandas. Firstly, I'm deleting the old virtual environment, deactivating it, and now let's go. So I'm initializing a new UV project. Notice what happens when I go UV init. It's going to create a lot of files for me. You see there's get ignore main project main.py, the PyProject file. Now I'm copying in the PyProject file that I want to use. That's got my dependencies in there, and I'm simply saying UV sync. UV sync is absolutely amazing. What it does, it's going to firstly check whether your log file is up to date. So let's talk about the log file. uv.log is a file that it's not only telling you what components are installed in your virtual environment, it's also managing all of the dependencies. So for example, fast API, and then all of those dependencies, but also the versions of those dependencies. So log is an absolute copy of your environment. So when you go to production, you're going to basically recreate your production environment from your UV log file, not from your pyproject.toml file. You can, if dependencies doesn't have to be super accurate, but really in production you want to use the log file to do that. So what sync does is sync's going to make sure your log file is up to date with your project file. That's managed automatically. But sync also, and notice it created a virtual environment for us, and it already installed everything here. That was just, and the reason this is so fast is UV is written in Rust. So you'll see this happening now all over the place. That tools, for example, Pydantics, written in Rust. So Python is not the fastest language out there, but it's got this superpower that it works really well with other languages. That's why a lot of libraries like Pandas and NumPy are really written in C or C++ often. And that's not what's now happening. A lot of these packages are being rewritten in Rust as well, which is just going to give us amazing speeds in Python. So let's continue. So as you can see, virtual environment was created over there. All of these dependencies have been installed. If you go UV3, it's showing you the dependency tree. And now I'm activating the virtual environment. And as you can see, Python 3.14 was installed over here. So, and that came out of the project file. That is one of the nice things with UV. I'll demonstrate that in a little while here. It manages your Python versions as well. So you can add components like, I'm adding PyTest here, but I'm indicating that it's a development component. And what you'll notice is that it puts it in a separate section of the project file as a development component. So when you do the production environment, you're not going to install that. That's also another nice feature. Use that. Use that for all of your development tools. I can run PyTest. I'm just quickly running it. When you use UV run, you are basically telling UV that use the virtual environment, whether it's active or not. I'm always going into the virtual environment because that's just my muscle memory. But if you don't want to activate the virtual environment all the time, you can just use UV run and run any of the packages in your environment, and UV will activate and use the virtual environment to do that without you having to activate it. Like what I just showed you over there, although the virtual environment's active. So here is another one, UVX. What UVX does is it allows you to run tools. Rough over here is linter in a formatter, super popular, or another one is black, without installing it. Notice I did not install this rough, I just ran it, UVX, ran it, and it's telling me the latest one is 0.14.4. So let's just run rough, and we're just going to do a check. I'm not going to go into the detail of rough, but the check's passed, and without me having to install it. I added requests. So this is, as you can notice there in the dependencies, that request was instantly added to the Py project file. And that's how you update the log file, UV log. So before you take your project to production, super important to lock it, and then it's ready to be shipped into a production cloud-based, wherever you're hosting it, environment. And you will use, as I mentioned earlier, the log file to recreate, because the log file has the accurate version of every package, every library that you've been using in your development environment. And this is what the log file looks like. So I've just recreated it. There we go. It's a complex file. You're never going to edit this file manually, but that just gives you an idea of what it looks like. Now, if we want to use UV to manage Python, this is something that blew my mind. Often, you basically have lots of Pythons installed on your machine, and managing that often pretty complicated. It can be a pain. So what I'm showing you here, UV Python list, is going to show you all your Python environments installed, but it gets better. So you can basically uninstall them like I'm doing over here, I'm uninstalling 3.12. It's uninstalled super fast, as you can see. And I'm listing again. You see 3.12 is not there anymore. And let's install 3.12 again. That's it. It's downloading it. And this is what makes it so awesome. If you don't have it on your machine, it fetches it and installs it for you. Amazing. It's really cool. Let me just clear this. So what I've done now is I've removed the virtual environment. So when I create a new virtual environment, I can give it this -- Python, and I can say I want you to create this environment using Python 3.12. And there we go. Now once I activate the virtual environment, you will notice that this has Python 3.12 because I used the indicator over there, -- Python 3.12. That's something it's so cool. It has really revolutionized my way of coding and bringing and keeping everything simple. So UV's got their own little formatter built in, code formatting. What does it do? It's still experimental, by the way, but it will modify your code or and let me show you here. So I'm just changing this and I'm using UV format, and you'll see instantly it gives it a nice format, a standard format. So let's break this formatting. The cool thing with this is that your team can migrate to a standard format. You know, people sometimes argue about formatting. Just use a formatting tool, and then there's no more argumentation. So like Go does this. Go has one standard way of formatting source code, and it's just so cool. So that's what UV format does, but you can also use the tools like Rough to do that for you. So let's delete the virtual environment again. RM minus RF, basically deleting a folder over there. So now I'm going to delete the whole folder, everything that I've done. And I want to show you what it's going to take to recreate this folder. Now, so let's see, I'm not going to use the log file. I'm just going to use the project file for now. Create the folder. You see there are virtual environments deleted as well. Everything's gone. Copy it. The PyProject, TOML, UV sync. There we go. Now if you used the UV log file, if you had the UV log file in here, it would use that with UV sync. So I know that was fast, but it was just an amazing overview of what you can do with UV. It's just the start, by the way. I would say if you're not using a lot of advanced tools already and you're just using the basics, then try UV. It's fast. It's bringing together the power of a lot of other tools like Poetry and advanced Python tools, and it's bringing all of it together in this one amazing package. So if you want to stay up to date with what we're doing here, the Voyager Quests project, where we're basically building live software to demonstrate advanced Python features, then yeah, just stick around. I'm excited to share the next one with you.